Sam Smith, Phil Jackson, co-authors of Masters of the Game, a conversational history of the NBA and its 75 legendary players. Sam, of course, covers the Bulls. He's done so since 1987. He gave us the Jordan rules. And, of course, Phil Jackson, 11-time NBA champ. And they join us now. Phil, you have all of these different players, all these different chapters where you and Sam are just talking back and forth about them, giving your thoughts in a conversational tone. Give me the player that you had the most fun talking about in this book.
Well, I think we could have gone on forever about Dennis Rodman. But I would say some of the guys that I didn't coach, some of the guys that, Havlicek and players that, competed against and had admiration for.
Sam, give me the player in the book that more people should know about.
I think one who gets overlooked so much is Rick Barry. People know Rick Barry. I don't think they appreciate how great Rick Barry, in my view, could have been, a Steph Curry with his shooting ability. He was such an all-around versatile player who, for various reasons, was so universally disliked. But, one of the interesting things, Phil went on a lot of State Department tours back then. And he was on one with Rick. And I remember one, Phil was we were talking about one with Pete Maravich, where, and I know the history books don't reflect this actually, but Pete basically opened China before Richard Nixon. Because I think on some of the State Department tours, Pete's dribbling and passing and playing, so excited some of the communities in China, Phil, we were talking about. And that was another, I know they know Pete Maravich, but they don't know in this era. And to me, that was really what the book's about, that these guys are sort of lost to history, as much gets. But I believe, and I think when you see Jokic now and you see Doncic, these guys could have played in any era, including this era. And I don't think that is appreciated. And that was a big part of my interest in the book.
It feels like the NBA started when Magic and Larry showed up. So you had players in the 60s, certainly in the 70s. They missed out on the TV era. And I think Kareem, the better years of his career, he missed out, or at least we missed out. But what do you remember about Kareem?
Yeah, this is a guy who had, a body that could survive playing in this game for 20-some years. Not too many guys can even shoot the step hook. It's a jump hook or 2-foot takeoff. And Kareem was able to perfect this shot. He was able to play with a certain amount of grace. His defense was always criticized, and his rebounding perhaps as a shortcoming, but his scoring was never. He was a great scorer. And he was a guy that held himself together quite well off the court as well as on.
We're talking to Sam Smith and Phil Jackson. The book is Masters of the Game, a conversational history of the NBA, the 75 legendary players. So was there somebody that you wanted to include that you didn't?
We used the NBA's top 75. And, no offense, but I thought there were too many. But it was 75 years. They had to go in 75. Sort of the controversial, if it would be named, was Dwight Howard. But he's a Hall of Famer. People look at it as a negative when you say, well, he wasn't deserving of being in the Hall of Fame, a top 75. And I thought some of the 75, Damian Lillard, no offense, I didn't think he was a top 75 player. I think there was some recency bias in the list, but I had to get to 75. I think it was overall a pretty good list. I ended up being on the panel. I know Phil doesn't like to select rank people, and we didn't rank people in this. And I think that's another thing that's different. It's not the debate who's number one, who's number two. It's a look at the history of it. So I think it's a fairly good list overall.
Phil, over the years, it feels like your relationship with Scottie Pippen has been complicated. Can you expound upon that?
Well, I was assistant coach when Scottie came into the game, and I played with him and against him one-on-one and tried to help his game out a little bit. And I was big in promoting Scottie because, we had Scottie coming off the bench, and I had to sub in as a coach for Doug Collins when he got thrown out of a game. And that was like the immediate thing I did. I put Scottie in the game and up the pressure defense, because this is one of the best defensive players ever to play the game. So I had a lot of admiration for him and had a lot of contact with him. He was the on-court guy that I alerted all the time when defensive strategies would come, double teams, traps, etc. Whistle, hey Scottie, it's time, whatever. So yeah, it was shocking to hear the comments that he made. But he had a situation that was coming off the bench, not being able to play the last few seconds of a basketball game that was critical, and it made a big change in his life. Michael called the next day from baseball and said, I don't know if Scottie will ever be able to live this down. And I think it's been a hard thing to live down, refusing to go in a ball game because things didn't go your way.
Michael, Dan, I wanted to add something briefly with that. I thought it was really poignant. Phil's kept a good relationship with Michael. I've seen him occasionally, but we don't chat as much as he and Phil might. And when some of those things came out, and we talked about this in the book that Phil had asked Michael about that, and Michael really expressed regret. I thought it was really poignant that Michael told Phil that he feels terrible about losing the relationship with Scottie, a 20, 25-year relationship that was closer than a lot of people thought. And so, it struck me as really poignant that Michael felt a loss about this.
Phil, the Dennis-Rodman relationship, certainly different, but it almost felt like you had these big personalities and you gave everybody almost their own longitude and latitude. Is that fair to say?
We had a team that was without a power forward when Michael came back to play after his baseball stint. And, we put out a list of power forwards that could be or would be capable of filling that role. And we came up with Dennis Rodman as the only one that really fit the bill. We traded Will Perdue for him, and it wasn't a big money thing. And after meeting Dennis and knowing who he was, I addressed the team as, we're all adults. There's got to be exception for some players. This guy's not going to come to the games on time. He doesn't shoot. He doesn't go out and shoot around. So he's asked me if he can come a half hour late. So he'll be fine. We'll fine him like the NBA wants to fine players for not being there an hour and a half before the game. And at the end of the year, he'll pay the fine of whatever it was, $2,500 or whatever. But these are exceptions that we're going to have to live with this guy. And I think his talent overweighs what's going to happen as we grow together towards winning a championship.
Phil, give me the player you wish you had coached.
Wow, I think a lot of there are a lot of players that you look at and say, what a terrific player this guy is. He's overall. But I think Leitner's is like one of the guys I thought never really got to play the way he was capable of playing in the NBA. And I would like to coach a guy like that had talent, had some leadership ability, maybe never blossomed as an NBA player.
Sam, who do you think changed the game more, Michael Jordan or Steph Curry?
Michael Jordan, partially because I'm still with the Bulls, so I have to say that. That's in my contract. But no, the greatest thing, I sometimes say, this guy shot better than Michael, passed better, rebound. There's every skill they did better than Michael. How could he be the greatest player? And part of it's not just, Michael changed the world, long shorts, men could be bald. Bald was good. Bald was never good before. Earrings, the shoes, the fashion. Michael's influence about the world way transcended basketball. And, that's part of the equation. So I don't think anybody could ever rival Michael with the combination of his play.
Guys, good luck with the book. It was an easy read. It was a fun read. And I learned a few things about some of those players that I didn't get a chance to see when I was growing up. Phil, I think I saw you at the Cincinnati Gardens when the Knicks came to town against the Royals. But thanks again. Sam, great to see you. Phil, thank you as well. And good luck with the book.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah. Hope to see you in 30 years again.
Thank you, Sam. So 30 years if the Bulls win another championship. Because I'd always see Sam when they'd win a championship. How about Phil, of all the players he could coach, and he gave me Christian Laettner? And I went, okay. Christian's going to be happy to hear about that. But I was like, I almost said, wait a minute, who? Yeah, Paulie.
The whole room on this side, we all went, what?
I know.
Because we expected, Dominique Wilkins or some player who, whatever. That's going to be frustrating if you hear Christian Laettner and you hear that almost.
Yeah.
But a compliment.
Yeah. Phil said that he wanted to. You could have given me 100 guesses. You could have given me 1,000 guesses, and I wouldn't have said Christian Laettner.